Okay, in this video we're going to continue the problem we had last time. We have an amounts dictionary, name and a number, take that to be the amount they owe us, and then an update dictionary, we'll think of that as further spending on their part, so we want to add this to their balance, except that we have this new key Steve over here, which didn't appear up here. So we got a new customer, and that was his first purchase. Okay, so we want to loop over the update dictionary. How can you do that? Well, I should point out how that works. So if you take, let's load these things by running the file. Okay, so let's look at, say, amounts.keys. And that shows the keys that occur in amounts, except there's this strange dict keys thing in front of it. What is dict keys? Well, let's go back and give this a name, assign this to a variable. So like this A equals amounts.keys. So let's do type. I don't think this is going to be very informative. Dict keys object. So what is this? Well, it looks like a list, but it's more sophisticated than a list because it's dynamic. If you change the dictionary, it will change the view A. It's called the view. So for example, if we do amounts let's say bill equals $10, then if we look at A again, notice that bill turned up over here. So the added key changed in this data structure. So this is a dynamic data structure. Now that may not be what you want, and it's easy to, it is an iterable, you can loop through it as we'll see. But if you prefer a list that's static, isn't going to change, that's very easy. You just do list of A, and there it is, and that's not going to change if you change the dictionary. Similarly, you can do amounts dot values, and that's a dynamic data structure showing the values. And the interesting one for us is amounts dot items. Sorry. And that's dynamic again, but if we look at what it is, what this list is, it's a list of tuples. Each one has a key and the value associated to the key. So that allows you to loop through the items in the dictionary, both key and value, at the same time. So to do that, you would say for, let's say, K, comma, V in amounts dot items. Do print, let's say, K and V. Okay, so this having two things here and assigning from one thing over here to that, well, it's a tuple. That's just tuple unpacking, like we've talked about before. You could put a parentheses around K, comma, V, but it's not necessary in this circumstance. Invalid syntax. Do, where did do come from? Oh, wrong language again. Okay, here we go. So it just went through and verified that K is the name and V is the corresponding value. Okay, so let's get rid of all this junk here. And let's reload our data. Okay, so let's do a function to do this. This is the style we were talking about last time. Define, let's call it, what should I call it? Do updates. And I'm going to make it version 1. And let's have a dictionary amounts. And up D is the update dictionary. Make it more general, not using all of this. So, okay, what are we going to do? So let's loop through all the updates. So for KV in update items, then what are we going to do? Well, we want to look up the key in amounts and add it to it. The difficulty is if we try to do that with a key that doesn't exist in amounts, then we'll crash. So we don't want to do that. So one way to do it is we first have to check that first. So if K in amounts, if you ask if something is in amounts, that means that turns out to be the same as a key. Means the key, is that a key in the amounts dictionary? So if it is a key in amounts, then we want to do amounts K. Well, let's see, equal amounts K plus V, which is the amount from the update dictionary, and so that would update it. Note that you could do that more concisely and more efficiently and impress your friends if you did it as amounts K plus equals V. So that's just a syntactical sugar that if you're going to have something on the same on both sides, then you don't have to copy it twice. And it is slightly more efficient than the version I wrote. So let's change from, let's comment this out. Let's change to this one. Is that indentation right? Yes. Okay. So that's what we do if K is already in amounts. If it's not, we have to do else. It's not in amounts, so we have to put it in amounts. So we can just do amounts K equals V. So that's just that's the normal way of adding a key and a value to the dictionary, right? You do amount of the key and then you set it equal to V, the value you want. Okay, in this case it won't crash because we know that it's we're just it doesn't appear on both sides. That's the dangerous thing that caused us to worry about this. Okay, so that should do it. So let's do amounts. What was that? Oh, I have to run this file again. So I have amounts. Oops. Sorry. Amounts. And updates. Update. Okay. So what I want to do with this function is I want to do, let's call it, where does the result come back would be a good question. Well, we're changing this amounts thing, and that is a pointer to, a reference to a dictionary, so that'll be set to the new dictionary. So we can just do, that may be kind of sneaky, make the user might forget that. So what we could do, I guess, is let me get that function back. Down here I could do oops, function back, please. I should have typed it out in the file over there. Let me do that. Paste. Okay, so let me erase this line. Okay, and instead of changing it the reference, let's return the modified amounts, which is probably more sensible to the user. Okay, so now let's run this. No syntax errors. Now let's do our function do updates _1 first version, and then amounts update. And since I'm returning it now, and I want to look at it that way, let's call it new amounts. Equals that. All right, here we go. Bang. New amounts. Parentheses, it's a dictionary. So Alice has changed from over here, it was 13.75 to 20.75, and so on. And we've got a new key, Steve, 12.6, which is what we had here. And notice Sam, 139.60999999. That's why I say you shouldn't use floating point numbers to represent currency values. There's suitable Python modules for not doing that. Okay, so that's the way we did it at first. Okay, so we needed that if statement. So an alternative way to do it would be to use my favorite dictionary method, which is set defaults. So let's do def do updates to amounts update and question mark. And now I can just do for KV in updates. What do we want to do? Well, we can say amounts okay equal set default amount, and I want K. Well, I should do which one I'm looking at. So amounts dot set default set default. The key is K, and the default amount should be V. Should it? Yes, I think. Well, let's reason it out. So what's going to happen here? Well, there's two cases. Either K exists in the amounts database or it does not. Okay, if it does exist, then all this does is return the value that goes with K. Okay, so I don't want a V there. I want 0, and then I want to do plus V. Okay, so let's see what happens. If K is a key in amounts, then amount set default return K returns that amount. So whatever amounts K was gets returned for the value of set defaults, and then we add V to it. So we get amounts K equals amounts K plus V. On the other hand, if K does not exist, then this thing is going to not crash. It's going to return 0 and create the new key and set it to 0. So in this case, if K does not exist in it, set default K0 will result in amounts K existing and having value 0, and then we add the value V and set it equal to amounts K. So that should do it. And let's return, should be one indentation, return amounts. Okay, so let's see if that works. So let me put it over here. Okay, no, wrong one. Okay, so over here we want to do copy, and then over here we want to do paste. Okay, do updates to return amounts. Okay, so let's run this file, and everything's where we expect it to be. So let's say do updates to of amounts and capital A amounts and update like that. Press the button. Too many values to unpack. Well, let's see where it was. In KV and UPD. Okay, so what went wrong is this should be UKV.items in this dictionary. So let's save that, and then let's reload the file. Invalid syntax, and that's because I forgot the colon. And there you go. And now let's do updates to do updates to amounts and update. And we're returning the value of amounts. So let's just do A equals that. We just want to examine it at the moment. So if we say go here, A is, I think that's what we got last time. Steve is here, and the rest of these are what we have. If you can hear a noise in the background, it's my cat meowing. The cat doesn't get fed yet. Okay, so what happens if you feed this into, if you get Alice 2075 for KV down here, then K, Alice, set default Alice, will just return the value that's in Alice, which is 20.75, and to that we add the amount in updates and set it equal to K. Okay, I don't know if you can tolerate that or not. Okay, so what are we going to do? So that worked pretty well. The other cases, it's like Steve 12.6. So in this case, K is Steve. That doesn't exist in amounts. So we create something in amounts with Steve, value Steve, and we set it to 0, and we return 0. And then we get plus V, so it just gets set equal to V, which is what we want. Okay. Okay. So another problem like that, which is often used, is reversing a dictionary. So the keys are the values of the old dictionary, and then you try and get the key as the value in the new dictionary, but there may have been several keys that had the same value, and the function may not have been one-to-one. So what you have to do is list the inverse image of the value. In other words, make a list of all the keys that had value V. So you can think about that a little bit. I'll do it in the next video, which will come out, very shortly. Okay, so I'm going to quit there.